The two things you need to know before you decide on a price for anything is A, how much did it cost you to get that thing? B, how much did it cost you to keep that thing? And only from there can you determine what your margin's going to be to C, sell that thing for a fair price. Well, good morning, folks, and welcome back to the farm. I'm just over here by the sea can, digging my way in here this morning. Calving season is almost upon us, and so I've got to get the wife inside so we can get all the baby clothes and stuff dug out. But it's an absolutely gorgeous day today. Yesterday, we were scheduled for, I shouldn't say scheduled, but the meteorologist said it was going to hit +3. We went for a family ski trip over to Grand Prairie, and I actually saw 6 degrees. The downside to that is that we had like a 50-mile-an-hour wind. So, +6 with a -20 wind chill. But anyways, it was still an enjoyable day. But today it is probably hovering right around 0 with no wind. So it is truly gorgeous. But if you look over there, you see that dark blue line just on the horizon right there. What does that mean? That's the opposite of a Chinook ridge. So instead of warm weather, what that's bringing, that's moisture dense air is what that is. So I would say later on this evening, early tomorrow morning, we're probably going to get a very thick blanket of wet, heavy snow. So whatever I'm digging out here, I better get dug out, get in, get my stuff, get out, get the door sealed up, because buckle up. We're probably going to get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's looking like it's going to dip down from, right around 0 where it is right now to probably -20, -25 for a couple of days. And then hopefully it arches back up and we get some nice weather again. Anyways, enough about the weather, enough about the sea can. What's on our mind here today? We had probably the best question we've ever received on our YouTube channel here this morning from one of our viewers, Kendra, because she commented on the video about meat waste that I just put out the other day, which if you haven't watched already, I'll link that in the description on today's video. But she asked the question, how do you price your meat? She's got some hogs that are ready to go to market. She wants to direct sell. What's the fair price? What's the market price? Well, if you look around on Kijiji, you look around on Facebook, see all the different ads, you're going to see there's a lot of disparity between the prices. So how do you pick a fair price for your meat? Well, the easiest and probably the most obvious answer is just to go to the grocery store and see what the price is there. And take that number, scrumple it up, and throw it right in the garbage. Now, okay, well, why is that not useful? Well, it's useful. It is useful in terms of identifying what the market can tolerate, but it's not useful in terms of identifying what you should charge. What you doing, Charlotte?
Lipstick?
Does the donkey have lipstick?
Yeah.
No. Give him some hay, sweetie.
Mama, see. You want some? Yeah.
Oh, Millie's hungry.
You want some? Open your mouth. Open. Open. He's hungry. He's really hungry.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So the most useful thing you can do when you're identifying how much you want to charge for any product, whether it's eggs, meat, soaps, whatever it is you're making on your homestead or your farm, the top priority should always be identify what it actually costs you. What is your bottom line? And then from there you can establish what the market can tolerate, and everything in between is your profit margin. Now, if you can go to the grocery store and say, okay, well, pork is whatever cents per pound. Okay, well, that gives you an idea of what a commercial farmer, basically is putting their product out for. What's critical to understand though is that the contracts for a commercial farmer are significantly different than anything that a small farmer, homesteader, hobby farmer is going to be able to execute. Something as simple as feed cost. You think feed cost is feed cost, right? No, absolutely not, right? Well, what I would call buying in bulk, right? I go down to Bloom Enterprises down in Lynburn and I buy a mini bulk bag and that lasts me for a month. That's buying in bulk as opposed to, buying 50-pound sacks. And that works for a guy that's going to have, anywhere from 2 to 10 hogs. But if I'm a commercial farmer and I've got 300 or maybe even 1,000 hogs on my farm, the product I'm buying in bulk is going to be priced significantly different than the guy that's just buying, 1,800 pounds or 2,000 pounds at a time. So that's a critical factor. The other thing that I think a lot of small farmers don't calculate is true cost accounting. When it comes to actual cost, it's not just your feed cost. There's also your amortized cost that you got to figure in. So day one, when you first said, I want to get a pig on the farm, or I want to get a chicken, or I want to get a goat or whatever, and you had to develop some kind of infrastructure. Now, in the case of hobby farms or small farms, homesteads, whatever it is, I think the majority of us, ourselves included, probably looked at that and thought, well, how can I do this, as environmentally responsible and, let's be honest, as cheaply as possible? So what we did is we made some shelters out of pallets, as well as, some other reclaimed materials like tin and things like that. So really, really low cost. But that's not the case for everybody. Some people literally just bought, all the materials and they went out and they built a brand new pig shelter, a $1,000 pig shelter or a $2,000 goat house, right? So now you have to think about the longevity of that piece of infrastructure. That piece of infrastructure going to last you 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. Divide the total cost of that by the number of years that you expect it to last. And then that also has to be injected into your overheads. So, that's where oftentimes if you're looking at, well, what's the other guy charging? You look at the lowest guy on the market and you think, I can't even feed my animals for what this person is selling it for. Chances are there's not some magic formula for what they're doing. They're either A, completely debt free, and maybe they inherited their land and they don't have mortgage payments. Or maybe they produce their own grain products and they don't have to go to a third party and pay the middleman, so to speak. Or C, they're just losing money. They're just slowly going bankrupt, right? So sometimes what other people are charging is not really a good indicator of what the actual price that you should charge actually is. Now, when you're going to put your product out there, you've decided, okay, this is my bottom line, this is my overhead, this is what the market can tolerate, and I'm going to set my price here, and then you put it out there for the general public to see. You can expect some people to challenge you. You can expect, and I've put videos about this on YouTube regarding the price of eggs. That's a very probably the most common one where people get challenged on the price. But yeah, you put your product out there, somebody's going to say, well, I can get it cheaper at Safeway, or I can get it cheaper at Walmart. So here's the thing. To the consumer, they see pork, or they see eggs, or they see chicken, or they see lamb, or whatever it is. They don't understand the difference. And so that's the piece. That's the $64 million equation right there that you need to actually figure out yourself. On the marketing side is, how do I convince somebody that my product is A, worth more, and B, healthier for them in some way, shape, or form. It's advantageous to them to spend more money on my product than it is just to go down to the Walmart Supercenter or the Save On Foods or the Safeway or whatever it is to buy eggs for $2 or, pork for 60 cents a pound or whatever it might be. Now, ultimately, in a nutshell, that's essentially it. If you're looking for, what's the fair market price in the homesteading market, you're probably going to have a lot of disparity, and that should be expected, because everybody is going to have different overhead, different bottom lines, different expectations about what their profit margin should be for their product, different amounts of input, right? Some people have automated waters, some people have to pack water, and there's two different values associated with those two things, right? And so that's going to affect your price essentially. The other thing to consider too is shipping and butchering. So if you're selling a live pig and they're arranging for a butcher and they're going to do on-farm slaughter and then cut and wrap and send that product directly to the consumer, versus you loading that pig in a trailer, hauling it to a butcher, and maybe you cover the butcher fees and then they just pick up the product afterwards, and there's half a dozen different options of how you can execute getting it from the farm to their freezer, essentially in different configurations. But from there's going to be different costs associated, whether it's the seller or whether it's the buyer that eats those costs. And so your price per pound is going to be affected by that as well. One thing we do here on the farm is we sell the live animal by its price per pound. And then the customer pays the butchering fee, because they're the ones that are going to get it cut and wrapped in whatever fashion they want. So it's just easier for them to coordinate. I'll drop it off at the butcher, or I'll have the butcher come out to the farm, but ultimately they're going to pay the butcher fee, and that just keeps that whole headache off of my plate entirely. And then financially, what I try to do is I try to return $2 for every dollar I spent, right? So if it costs me $400 to feed a hog, I want $800 for that pig at the end of it. Now, that's really, really simple math, and there's probably some more factors in, but a good rule of thumb, if you can return $2 for every dollar spent, you've probably seen some value for your time. Anyway, speaking of value for your time, I should probably go out, spend some time, feed my own animals here. So I'll let you go for now. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow.